What's up, everybody? I'm TheJoshElkin, and today, not only am I making Reuben sandwiches that consist of corned beef, sauerkraut, and Thousand Island dressing, but I'm also making salt and vinegar chips to accompany it. Let's get on with the recipe.
If you guys don't already know this, I grew up in Montreal, and one of Montreal's national dishes is smoked meat. It's basically using the same cut of meat, the brisket, smoking it, steaming it, and or boiling it. Now I'm taking the concept of that, using the pressure cooker to make this pastrami or smoked meat or corned beef to make a Reuben. And on the side of the Reuben, I thought it would be cool to make some salt and vinegar chips. So right now I'm gonna peel these potatoes and slice them super thin using a mandolin. Now as you can see, I'm using 2 types of potatoes, and that's because I ran out of russets, and with the fear that I would eat too many of the potato chips, I decided to add some mini Yukon Golds, which is gonna give it just the same amount of deliciousness, just a little bit different of a texture. And I don't know if you caught that or not, but I'm soaking these potatoes in vinegar. It's gonna start the vinegar flavor process. I think classically Reubens are eaten with regular sauerkraut, but I'm not classic in any sense of the word, so I'm gonna make a red cabbage slaw sauerkraut. And the first thing I'm gonna do is saute some of these onions. Then I'm gonna add some red cabbage with some apple cider vinegar, a little bit of salt and pepper, some sugar, and just bring all this together before adding it to a bowl after draining it from the liquid. You know the old saying, we eat with our eyes, and bland and sort of pale looking sauerkraut is definitely not something I regularly want to eat. However, this bright purple bowl of delicious is something I want to eat on the regular. Now, if you know anything about a Reuben, you know that the sauce used inside the sandwich is Thousand Island dressing. And before I proceed making this, it might look a little familiar to that of another sauce some would call special. All right, that goes on the side. Now I'm going to drain the potatoes from the vinegar. Now, before you deep fry potatoes, you want to make sure they are 100% dry. If you throw in wet potatoes into the deep fry, you're asking for a problem, and that's a problem I don't want any responsibility for. And while the potatoes air dry, I'm gonna take the beef out of the pressure cooker and let it sit so that we can slice it. And this might not look that appealing to you, but when you slice it and put it in between 2 slices of rye bread, chef's kiss. For the potato chips, we're gonna double fry, which means we're gonna fry at a lower temperature first, take it out, increase the heat, let the potatoes dry a little bit, and then lower it back in the deep fryer to get that ultimate crisp. But there's a few more steps to take in order to really drive home the flavor profile of salt and vinegar, and that's adding salt, of course, but also adding some ascorbic acid, which kind of gives the feel of vinegar without sogging up the chips. If you tasted it, you'd be like, ooh, this kind of tastes like vinegar in powder form. And at this point, the beef is cool enough to touch, and I'm gonna find the grain and cut the opposite direction. You always wanna cut your meat against the grain. It'll make it less tough when you're trying to chew it. The bread I'm using for this sandwich is classic. I'm using a rye bread. Some people would say that marble rye is classic, and that's cool. You could use that as well. And while the bread toasts on this flat top, I'm gonna apply a generous amount of our Thousand Island dressing to each side. I'm also gonna add some Swiss cheese to both sides of bread, and then on one side I'm going to place the red cabbage slaw, and on the other side the sliced meat. Cook it for a few more minutes just until all the cheese is melted.
Check this bad boy out. A Reuben, which is corned beef, dressing, Swiss cheese, and sauerkraut. Now in this case, we made the Thousand Island dressing from scratch. We made the corned beef in the pressure cooker, and instead of a basic bland looking sauerkraut, I used red cabbage to make a red cabbage sauerkraut. And I gotta tell you, this sandwich not only looks incredible, but I've already had one, and I know it tastes incredible too. Now to accompany this sandwich, I could have made French fries, but French fries are boring. Instead, something I've never done before, salt and vinegar chips. Check out the crunch. Why do I always make things so ridiculously delicious like this, where I have to eat multiple of them? I hate myself for it, but I love myself for it. But really, I hate myself for it. Now I love myself for it. This is just so good. Listen, you could sit around and take it from me, or you can make this in the comfort of your own home. You just gotta click the link in the description down below. It'll take you to Recipe Champions, where I publish all my recipes. And if you don't have an Instant Pot, right underneath that link is a link to my Amazon store where you can get the exact same Instant Pot that I use. Guys, I got more of this sandwich to eat. I'm super pumped about it, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.